Headbangers, iron slangers, what's going on? It's Dan, Moonshine, the Hillbilly Hellraiser. Hope everyone's having a good one. I'm doing all right. I can't complain. I could, but I won't. I guess today I could say that I'm either the luckiest person on the planet or the most broken person on the planet because, I've been having a couple of days here. So I've had this nagging injury with my shoulder and pec area. I figured I did it just moving stuff around and something was going on. So I went to the doctor. The doctor took a look at me and said, "No, it's not so much your shoulder pec. It's more related to your neck issues that you have." So I got to go do physical therapy, do that for a few weeks, and then assess the situation from there. If it doesn't improve, then unfortunately I probably have to go see my neck doctor, which I'm hoping is not the case. I generally don't subscribe to optimism, but I don't think it's going to get that serious to the point where I'm going to have to go see him. But it is one of those things where having all sorts of hardware and crap in your neck, it can always create a certain degree of challenges that wouldn't be there if you didn't have all that hardware there. So I get done doing that, go run some errands, come home, get ready to go into my bedroom to ice the neck down. And I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to change my fortunes in life. And I think what I might want to do this year is, it's a what do they say? New year, new you. I figured that I would try to, I would begin the efforts of trying out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a kicker. So I figured the best place to practice would be on the dresser drawer in my living room. That, or I'm just dumb and didn't judge the curve properly and ended up kicking the hell out of this gigantic wooden block with my foot, my bare foot, because I had my shoes off at the time. And man, that brought me to the ground. It was so loud and so painful. And man, it sucked. And my my toe, one of my toes, instantly started getting red, started swelling up a little bit. I woke up this morning and it was starting to get all purpley and bruised and a little black in certain spots. So I went to an urgent care place. They took a look at it. Excuse me. Said it wasn't broken, which was good. They said you still just try to take it easy, try to keep it elevated, put ice on it, just try to baby it a little bit. So I'm kind of positioned at a weird awkward angle right now because I got my foot sitting up on a chair, hoping to just try to keep it elevated. And hopefully within a few days, it'll start healing a little bit better. And then I can start, I do my rehab starting at the beginning of the week. So hopefully I should be fine for that. And yeah, just kind of go from there. But man, it sucks getting older, but there's times where there's days where I feel young and spry, and then there's days where I feel like I'm probably about 20 years older than my age would suggest. But anyhow, on top of doing that, I did even though even though I was injured, since they gave me a better prognosis than I was expecting. I went to the gym, but before I went to the gym, I said I'm going to hit up my local sound exchange. And so I picked up an album that I planned on getting. Of course, they had it there, very eagerly anticipated for a lot of people. And it's like buying potato chips and eating one. You can't do it. So I went there, picked up a few other things, and one of the things I picked up is what I'm listening to right now, which you probably can't hear because I suck at tech and something's going on where this mic isn't picking up surrounding sounds, even with all the different settings and whatnot and all that sort of stuff. I don't know what's going on, but regardless, I am listening to Appointment with Death by Lizzie Bordon. I like Lizzie Borden. Very, very good artist, good band, very, very good stuff. More, just straight up heavy metal, a little. little not so much thrashy early on, but just that straight up 80s heavy metal, that good, just that good solid stuff. And I guess got a little more power metally over the years, but yeah, I enjoy it. And from the sounds of it, it sounds pretty good from what I can tell. One of the last albums that they've put out, I don't know what the plans are in the future, but yeah, man, that's what I'm playing right now in the background. And what I'm about to talk about right now, this was one of the albums that I was definitely eagerly anticipating as far as releases that are coming out this year. And I am talking about the brand new self titled from Megadeth. Megadeth. Very good stuff. Came out today, January 23rd, on Black to Black Records. There's the disc, the insert. You kind of get the layout there. I'll show you the booklet and some of the artwork that goes with it. See, I kind of get you can see you got Vic Rattlehead staring out at a world on fire. And then just a lot, it's all the lyric sheets and all that sort of stuff. In the center, you got the band, couple couple more pictures laid out, and then that's the way back there. Vic looking at the world in ruins. But this is their 16th and to be the final album that Megadeth puts out. Dave Mustaine announced that last year that this was going to be it, that he was calling it a day, that he was going to do a one final album, one final world tour, and then ride off into the sunset. 64 years old, been doing this since the 80s. I think it's time to give the man his doing proper and let him go out on his shield, so to speak. But yeah, man, this is it's good. I enjoyed it. I didn't know what to I wasn't I was anticipating it, but I didn't know what to expect. I guess before I even start getting deep into the album, I should say that as far as my relationship with Megadeth, it started when I was in high school, junior high to be exact. One of the very first albums that I ever got was a thrash metal compilation called Thrash Metal, and the very first song on it was Hook and Mouth. And it couldn't have been a more poetic way for a young burgeoning headbanger to get into heavy metal than to have a song called Hook and Mouth, because instantly hearing that opening riff with the drums and everything was it instantly just and yeah, man, it was good stuff. And I continued to listen to them, and it kind of like that was like my gateway into the underground and discovering different bands, and then it just kind of snowballed from there as far as the stuff that I listened to. But Megadeth was always a constant throughout my years. Up until probably I would say I probably dropped off listening to them around euthanasia era, but those first five you can't beat those. They're just so good, just such good stuff on all of those. But I would say probably my favorites are going to be the Menza Friedman era with the Daves, because that's a top tier band. I got to see them once back in the day. I want to say in 94 and 95. I got to see them. Stone Temple Pilots opened for them. And this was at the Albany Knickerbocker Arena in New York. If anyone is familiar with that arena, I don't know if it's still there or not. Uh, but yeah, it was cool. The crowd hated Stone Temple Pilots. They just couldn't stand them. And Scott Whelan, being the notorious ass that he is, he couldn't take the heckling that he was getting, the razzing that people were giving him, so he was getting into it with the audience because of course he was. But they made it through their set and they got done. And then Megadeth came on and Megadeth killed. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, they closed out the set leading into the encore. They closed with Ashes in Your Mouth. And it's great because you know how the song ends with that final bam, 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 and it's echoing, and they had all these lights flashing, and the echo kept going, the just the reverb and all that, and it was such a great production moment. And the song is great on its own, but it was just so cool, and just watching the whole thing, all just watching them playing "Wake Up Dead" and you know, Hangar 18, Holy War, you know, all the peace cells, all that good stuff. It was phenomenal. You know, it was one of my favorite shows as a young kid. Uh, got to go with a bunch of older heads, and they took me, and it was a good time. You know, I really enjoyed it, and didn't get to see them back in the day when they're on the Clash of the Titans tour. I will forever envy and hate Eddie from Realms of Metal, Realms of Rock, because he got to go see them at the Orange County Fairgrounds Speedway in Middletown, New York, which is kind of my neck of the woods. And I wasn't allowed to go see them. But point being is that Megadeth has always been a constant in my life. It's always been they've always been there. They've always been a very major player in heavy metal. Even the albums I didn't listen to, there's always little songs. You hear a couple of the hits here and there that they always kind of stick out. And they've just always been there. And I know people have kind of soured on them in recent years. You know, Dave Ellefson not being in the band anymore. That was kind of like I think for some people, maybe it was a final FU. For a lot of people who viewed him as like the final piece remaining from the classic era of the band. But hey, this is Dave Mustaine's baby. He's the brainchild. It's his band. It's his way or the highway. I know he's a very divisive figure. He's got a very opinionated person through the years. I know people have had their, you know, they have their moments of liking him, disliking him, what have you. But getting into the album, you know, that it just is what it is. You know, strong personalities tend to bring out the best and worst in themselves and other people, and I that's all I got to say about that. But getting into the album, I would say overall this is there's a lot more good here than bad. Even when I first heard it, I would say the first four songs were really decent. They were really good. It started waning off in the middle section for me up until it got to I Am War. And then I kind of started getting reinvested into it. But listening to it again a couple more times, you start picking stuff up with even some of the stuff that I didn't think was as good. Like with Obey the Call. Obey the Call grew on me a little bit. Like you can hear there's some like angry again riff structures going on within that. So there's stuff that you can kind of latch onto and not have it be in the sense of like their member berries, but it's definitely something it's a familiar style. I mean, they don't really Megadeth is not this isn't like a super shreddy, super fast over the top speedy album like the early releases. It's a little bit more mid tempo. I mean, obviously, I would think that you could give Mustaine a little bit of credit being 64 for slowing down a little bit, but it's definitely very good. Him and I mean the band he's got with him because it's basically Dave and a bunch of hired guns, and I don't say that to be disrespectful to the band, but it is what it is. This is his band, and he hires a bunch of people to play with him. He's gone through a laundry list of musicians playing in this band. Currently, he's got James Lamenzo, who's been in and out of the band on bass. Dirk Verburen, who's probably the longest tenured member of the band. He's been with them since 2016 on drums. And then Timu Mantasari, who I'm I may be mispronouncing that, but Timu is a very unfortunate name in these days, in this modern age to have. But they all do a very, very good job as far as their roles within the band. And in some respects, I do kind of feel bad for them a little bit because it's such a tall order to fill the shoes of Chris Poland and Gar Samuelson and Dave Ellefson and Nick Menza and Marty Friedman. These are all just tremendous players, and they played on such ridiculously classic albums. And so I kind of feel bad for anybody who's been in the band since because it's hard to really compete. But yeah, I kind of fell off around the euthanasia era. So a lot of my most learned knowledge of them come from those first five. But no, this is good. Like I said, Obey the Call grew on me after listening to it a couple times and being just kind of, all right, this is all right. It's just kind of background filler. There's lots of punky and lots of thrashy riffs throughout the entire album. Like I don't care. It's a very punky song. I would say on a certain songs like I don't care and probably even Tipping Point, even though I like Tipping Point, and maybe one other. There's a lot of redundancy lyric wise, where it's just a lot of the same stuff over and over again, and that is one of those things where it kind of annoys me with any type of music that I listen to. Where if I hear the same thing over and over again, after a little while, I just want to scream, "All right, we got it." But that said, Made to Kill was another one that it was kind of like just there for me, but then I was listening to it more and exploring it a little bit more, and it's probably the most based song on the album. It really it delves into probably the most, I would say, most controversial because every once in a while Dave will throw some social commentary into the lyrics, and I'd say this one focuses more heavily on wars of choice and the follies of conquest and stuff like that, and it's cool. It's a really good song. It kind of like it brings more into focus the song, so that made me appreciate it a little bit more. But probably my favorite songs on here I would say are I Am War. Like I said, that was after listening to the middle section of the album. It kind of brought me back into it. Very, just a killer song I wrote here. I had to look at my notes real quick. Probably the most riff-tastic song on the album. Lots of thrashy riffs on that one. And then I would say probably the last note is it's a very good song. Um, that's probably my favorite, I would say, besides Let There Be Shred. Both have a very biographical nature to the lyrics where you can tell like Dave is taking a personal approach. He's speaking in first person with the songs and kind of giving everybody a glimpse, kind of behind the fourth wall, so to speak, into his life and his mindset and his career. And the last note, I know it's a word you don't typically hear metalheads using, but it's a really beautiful song, and especially the tail end, the acoustic outro at the tail end. It's really, I mean, it gave me goosebumps, and I like the hairs on my arms started standing up because it had just a very powerful element to it that really, it was a great way to kind of like close that chapter and bookend not just the album, but the career of Megadeth and him talking about all of his accomplishments and all the things he's kind of been through, between the band, the personal issues, the substance abuse issues, deaths, all sorts of trials and tribulations, and probably looking at it from the perspective of coming out on top, or maybe coming thinking you're coming out on top, but then you look out and you see the world on fire, and you're kind of like, okay, this is kind of bizarre, but and then as far as talking about Let There Be Shred, that was a really fun, just a fun song again, and I think lyrically it was a bit more biographical as far as Dave speaking from the first person. But yeah, I would say overall, this was a really it was a really, really good album. I would say it had a lot more high points than low points. It definitely was not a stinker. It would probably fit comfortably somewhere in between Countdown, Euthanasia, maybe somewhere around Cryptic Writings, and kind of like in that area of the band's discography, or that chapter of the band's life, is what I would say. And then as far as the bonus track, because I know that's probably the one that is probably going to get a lot of coverage and a lot of press, is getting a lot of attention from a lot of different people, even people that aren't really huge metal fans, but they know Metallica. They may know the history between Dave and Metallica, but it was good. It's good to hear. But that said, it's also, I've heard Ride the Lightning so many times that I almost kind of feel like it's cool to hear, but at the same time, it wasn't really that necessary, at least to me. I kind of get that in his mind is probably the most appropriate way to end everything. That's the big send off, is playing one of his songs, one of his biggest songs ever, and playing it the way that he wanted to. But it honestly just sounded like it was a little too overproduced in my opinion. It didn't have that raw feel to it. And on top of that, I've heard it so many times. It would almost be like if Bon Scott were still alive and he had a solo project and he decided to do Back in Black or Hell's Bells or Shook Me All Night Long. It'd be like, okay, this is cool. I'm hearing Bon Scott do this, but at the same time, I've heard this song 1,000 times. I don't really need to hear it at this point. So that's what I kind of how I feel. But overall, once again, I would say this is definitely, it's worth your time. It's worth checking out. I think if nothing else, if you don't want to go out and pick up a copy of it, either on CD or vinyl, on record, I would say at least give it a chance. Go take a listen to it. Take time to listen to it. I think we all, as metalheads, as the overarching metal community, probably ought to give the proper due respect to Dave Mustaine for all the years and all the decades of music and entertainment that he has provided for us. The same can be said of Ellefson and all the other aforementioned people in the band, but definitely, I mean, this is like his swan song, and it was good. It wasn't a stinker. And that's kind of always the fear, I think, is that people have, especially with a lot of these legacy bands, is that they're going to go out on a dull note. It's a whimper versus a scream. And while this isn't a scream, it's not a whimper. I'd say it's probably in true Mustaine fashion. It's more of a growling sneer. So that's how we're gonna end this one. So yeah, man, go check out Megadeth's latest release, the self-titled. I think you'll enjoy it. If not, eh, you know, what are you gonna do? So that's what I got for you, everybody. This has been Dan Moonshine from Moonshine Talking. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you go check out any of the other stuff I do. There's plenty there for you to check out. I will be back sooner than later. I am going to do a binge review of Juggalo Championship Wrestling because I've been following that a lot recently, breaking it down, talking about it. And I missed a few episodes. I've been watching the episodes, but I've missed talking about them. So I'm going to do like a big like compendium of the last 3 or 4 weeks worth of JCW episodes that I haven't talked about. So, as always, everybody, stay sick, stay heavy, stay brutal. Always tuck your chin upon impact. Don't forget to breathe. Keep headbanging and iron slanging. Everybody have a good one. Take it easy, and I will catch you on the next video. Later.